And for more on this story, we're now joined by Advocate Paul Hoffman, who is the Director of Accountability. Now he joins us via our video link for more insights on this matter. Advocate Paul, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Perhaps let's start off here. What is your take on, this situation and the actions of the Speaker in Parliament?
Good evening, Mbali, and good evening to your viewers as well. It seems to me that Parliament is taking the Zondo Commission report seriously, and it is starting to exercise its oversight functions somewhat better than it did in the past. So what has happened here is that the allegation is that the Speaker has interfered with the functioning of Parliament by giving the Secretary of Parliament a much bigger salary than the salary that Parliament thought that the Secretary of Parliament would be getting. And that would amount to interfering with the functioning of Parliament, which is a criminal offence under Section 7 of the Powers and Privileges of Parliament Act. And that is what is going to be investigated on this occasion.
Is there any justification whatsoever about, this increase that she has conducted to the Secretary of Parliament?
I think it would be quite difficult to find a justification, given that the advertised amount is roughly half of what is now being paid and has been paid since very shortly after the appointment of Mr. George as the Secretary of Parliament. So I'll be interested to see what justification comes up. But we must remember that the Speaker is a serial offender when it comes to playing fast and loose with public money. She was one of the Travelgate fraudsters. She was involved in bringing a girlfriend of her son into the country quite illegally. And of course, she did not cover herself in glory when, as the Minister of Defence, she started making excuses about what was going on in KZN in July 2021. That's why she left the cabinet and was sent back to become the Speaker of Parliament. She, in fact, swapped positions with Thandi Modise, who's now the Minister of Defence. So, yes, I'm sure that we can look forward to interesting times when the explanation comes. And as you said in your intro, the explanation is not due until next week.
And from your observation and your analysis, has she violated the Code of Conduct and Ethics?
Yes, and it would seem that she has done more than that. It would seem that she has interfered with the functioning of Parliament by secretly moving the salary up to 4.4 million a year from 2.6 million a year, and in so doing has committed a criminal offence rather than behaved unethically. That is why this investigation is being done under the Powers and Privileges of Parliament Act rather than under the members' ethics provisions.
And if it is indeed found that she has violated, the Code of Conduct, what steps can be taken in that regard, with this inquiry that some are saying that may actually get underway?
Yes, well, she can be charged criminally for contravening Section 7, and under Section 27, she can be sent to prison for 3 years or be given a fine, or being given both a fine and imprisonment. So it's a serious matter. It's not an administrative exercise. It is a question of holding her to account for the doubling of the salary. And it's not only her. Apparently, the chairman of the National Council of Provinces is also on the carpet for this particular misdemeanor.
And when it comes to your expectations of that response in which we are all awaiting for, what are you expecting to hear from the Speaker?
I'm very interested to know. It would be pure speculation, but
Yeah.
she will probably some sort of excuse for a clerical error with the first amount or a mistake with the second amount. One doesn't know. It is really up to her to let the world and her peers in Parliament know how it came about that the salary went from 2.6 million a year to 4.4 million a year. It's a huge jump, and it seems to have taken Parliament by surprise, and it certainly is an interference in the functioning of Parliament when you suddenly start paying the Secretary of Parliament roughly double what the parliamentarians were expecting would be paid.
And what would you say this means? I know you touched a bit on, the ramifications of the Zondo Commission and where we find ourselves now. But when it comes to the acts of Parliament and the National Assembly, seeing this process now get underway, and when it comes to accountability and transparency in the House, what does it mean for the country?
Well, we must remember that this complaint arrives in the lap of the Speaker because the chief whip of the official opposition, the Democratic Alliance, is the complainant in the matter. So what has changed between pre-Zondo report and post-Zondo report days is that it seems that the ANC majority in the Powers and Privileges of Parliament Committee not prepared to make excuses or to lie for the Speaker, as was done when Jacob Zuma had a fire pool in his garden at Nkandla, and that they are taking the oversight responsibility seriously and have called for an explanation for the sudden leap in the salary of the Secretary of Parliament. And so by petition complaint, there is a responsible oversight response on the part of the parliamentary committee that deals with these matters. And that is a good sign. It shows that Parliament is taking accountability, which is one of the foundational values in the Constitution, rather more seriously than was the case in times past.
And I'm coming to that, Advocate, because Parliament has been criticised on numerous occasions, even quite recently, in terms of how they dealt with the Phala report, and where we saw some of the ANC members, choosing to not allow that report to be brought into Parliament and to be acted upon. When it comes to her being even cleared, should she reach that point and there becomes an inquiry and she becomes cleared, how possible is that?
No, I think that the mechanism is that a criminal offence, if there is prima facie evidence of a criminal offence, it won't be something that is simply dealt with in Parliament. Charges will be laid against the Speaker, and the matter will be dealt with by the Criminal Justice Administration, not within parliamentary committees.
All right.
So it really moves out of the realms of an internal matter in Parliament if there is evidence or not, a lack of explanation for the change. If there is evidence supporting the prima facie case that she has interfered with the functioning of Parliament by secretly doubling the salary of the Secretary, then criminal consequences follow, and the work of the committee ends when the committee says we are now laying a criminal complaint in relation to this.
Advocate Paul, thank you so much for your time here on the Late Edition. That is Advocate Paul Hoffman, and he is the Director of Accountability Now, just giving us his insights there in terms of that process that will be taking place, and of course expecting that response from the Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, next week.